How the devil are we? I'm Matt, and we're back with part 2 of Reality Check with Ross Coulthart. Let's have a look at what Q&A is coming in, and let's look at what revelations are also going to be spoken about on this one. Let's have a look.
Let's go to an email. This is from Will in Texas. Why does it seem that for over 50 years, the media, including movies and entertainment, have been slowly exposing us to the concept of aliens, largely a threat narrative, and some whistleblowers have come forward with the same narrative, yet the government and military-industrial complex had numerous opportunities to come forward based on this longstanding preparation, but hasn't come clean? Do you think it is that the news would be a shock to civilization, or more that it would disrupt special interests in energy and control that some don't want to give up? Also, tell Megan she is the best ever, especially with Bigfoot.
She didn't put that in on her own. Of course she didn't. She didn't add that little bit in.
Will in Texas.
Look, yeah, I mean, you're right. The threat narrative has been a consistent theme in Hollywood. Aliens as threat. And it goes right back to the 40s and the 50s when the...
Does it goes back earlier than that, though? Is it H.G. Wells? You know, War of the Worlds. Was it when they went to the moon and there was like people in the moon and they went to Mars and they thought people lived on Mars? So I suppose it's been theory about aliens invading from another world for long before the 40s.
First alien movies started coming, but there are the odd exceptions, notably Steven Spielberg, and I'm really looking forward to Steven Spielberg's imminent movie. I'm told it's going to be very interesting. Let's not forget also that David Grush has been an advisor. It's been reported on a future Jerry Bruckheimer film that's going to be investigating the covert cover-up inside government and private aerospace. So there are some great movies coming. But yes, you're right. There is a Hollywood threat narrative, and yes, there is an argument in ufology that the threat narrative is wrong and that...
Well, I mean, it wouldn't make for an interesting movie, would it, if aliens come down and went, come by here, and then we're all holding hands and everything was fine. You got, like, Independence Day, those War of the Worlds, where humanity comes together against a single threat and prevails. That is much more interesting story than aliens coming down, and then you have this sort of 15-year dialogue where you've got ambassadors talking about peace treaties and maybe sharing of technologies. You probably need a series that's about 10, about 20 episodes long per series to do all that effectively. So, films are always going to be about adversaries, and they're also going to be about humans prevailing. So I don't think there's anything to that.
Most non-human intelligence engagements or encounters by humans have been benevolent and friendly, but not all of them. I mean, I keep on thinking of the Colares incidents in Brazil, where people were in fact killed or maimed with some kind of beam weapon. There have been incidents where there's been malevolence or at the very least indifference by a non-human intelligence reportedly towards human beings. What do I favour? I guess I'm hoping that a non-human intelligence is benevolent, kind, and probably interested in our future survival. Or maybe what they're interested in is preserving our planet. Maybe it's not us they're worried about, it's what we're doing to our planet. Maybe there's something special about Earth that they're trying to preserve.
Is that the day the Earth stood still? I know Keanu Reeves did a new one. I said new, it's probably about 15 years old now. But I'm talking about the original one from the 50s, was it? 50s or... Yeah, I think it was the 50s. Maybe even earlier. That was a good one. Where basically an alien race, civilizations are all around us, and they basically go, we are worried that you're a warring nation, very primitive, and we don't want you bringing your troubles to the stars. So unless you change your ways, we're going to wipe you out, basically. Yeah. I can't see it being a bad thing at this point.
Whatever it is, I do think, I agree. I mean, I think there's definitely been a threat narrative pushed in Hollywood, and this isn't to be dismissed because many Hollywood movies are influenced directly by the Pentagon. They've literally had people who, in return for the use of Pentagon resources, we'll give you a Huey chopper if you push this particular line in your movie. That's been a consistent way that Hollywood has been controlled and influenced by the Pentagon and by the intelligence community. And there is some great books that you can read that talk about the way that Hollywood has been influenced by particularly the CIA. And what's quite interesting is the guy at the CIA who was involved in doing that liaison with Hollywood actually talked quite openly about how, while he was working in the CIA, he stumbled across documents that verified, I think, the Roswell incident as being a non-human intelligence event. He's somehow disappeared from public sight. I hope he's all right.
Well, that's interesting. And going back to what you were saying there about how the military will help you out if you help them out, I think that happened on Independence Day. So all the planes and everything that you saw on Independence Day from the human military, they were CGI. And the reason why there were no real planes involved is because they mentioned Area 51 before Area 51 was a well-known base. And they said, if you use Area 51, we won't help you out. And they said, well, it's integral to the story, which is why all of it was CGI.
Yeah, let's keep on
I'm not sure how much of that's true, but that was the Chinese whispers back in the day.
And I'm certainly hoping and expecting that the new Spielberg movie in particular is going to be a very interesting one. I've often thought Steven Spielberg was very well informed.
Okay, we will go.
I mean, E.T. I can't think of any other Spielberg. Extraterrestrial film. Oh, was it Spielberg who did Taken? Maybe.
To an email. This is from Red Eye. He says, I need to apologize. I used to chuckle at people that believed in UFOs, skinwalker, cat mutilations, and shadow people. No more. You, Elizondo, Mellon, Nell, Knapp, and Nolan have detailed firsthand accounts from such credible, honest, and believable people. I am convinced about NHI. However, questions still linger. Based upon your interview with Joshua, what is your best guess as to the connection between cattle mutilations and nuclear bases / UFOs? Seems like a disconnect. Also, could shadow people, skinwalkers, etc., be an artifact of perception created by NHI to create a shell of ridiculousness to foster ridicule? Much like the Bell test pilot flying out of Edwards, Jack Woolams, who wore a gorilla mask, derby hat, and cigar in their attempts to discredit people that witnessed their flights.
That's a really interesting question. And it's funny, I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I was watching something that was talking about this exact issue. Why are there cattle mutilations? Well, firstly, maybe the aliens like beef, but that's not really a plausible explanation.
Who doesn't like beef?
Because
vegetarians.
Most of what's taken in cattle mutilations is not actually the prime cuts. Often it's areas of the face, often the skin, the tissue all around the skull, some of the internal organs like the omasum inside the cow, one of the internal stomachs. Frankly, they're not the most delicious or delectable items in the beef. I'm drawn to a theory. I'll throw this out there. It's totally speculative, but I'm drawn to a theory that cattle mutilations, a lot of what we see, a lot of what humans are being shown, is performance art.
Was he saying that there's some sort of alien Andy Warhol mutilating cows and then putting them back on Earth and going, look at this? Like it's some sort of weird cannibalistic art gallery. That's a spin that I never would have thought I would have ever heard, to be honest.
What it is a non-human intelligence trying to wake us up, trying to kindle a human awareness that there is something else.
By killing cows. I was about to just show up. Show up in the skies where it's irrefutable. Why kill a bunch of cows in a weird, inhumane way?
maybe cattle mutilations are just a way of completely freaking us out, that whatever this is, it's anomalous, it's unusual. There is one explanation that I'm prepared to give an airing, the speculation that Jakob Creutzfeldt's disease is an issue of concern. And
bless you.
That there's been some kind of monitoring program. I think it's called BSE, bovine encephalopathy virus. We've had to kill cows in the UK, I remember, at one stage, and I think it's happened in the US as well. We're very strong in Australia about monitoring it, and we're always getting in trouble with the Americans because we're very restrictive on beef imports because we're trying to protect our local industry. And
is going down a massive rabbit hole with this one, to be honest.
Maybe there's an awareness about some kind of disease that's spreading inside the cattle population. The problem with that theory is it's not just cattle. There are mutilated horses that I've investigated here in Australia, mutilated kangaroos. Something is doing performance art with animals. And I do find cattle mutilations, I'll be honest about it, it's a freaky mystery. And it's still happening. I get messages about alleged mutilations of animals, not just cattle, almost probably every month or so, every 2 or 3 weeks. And the most recent ones I've had have been in the American Midwest. I've seen some of them have been reported in the American media. And I've even spoken to both an FBI team and also to Canadian investigators that have been investigating cattle mutilations up in British Columbia.
I mean, performance art. I mean, if it's humans doing it for performance, they want locking up because those people are a bit sick and they're dangerous, right? I can't imagine that anyone would do it with, like, why would farmers do it? There's absolutely no reason. Like you said, if people are trying to harvest beef that's not theirs for selling it or eating, they're taking parts that don't make sense. And in some cases, they said only lasers could possibly extract some like circular patterns that are just so precise that it's not like animals that are doing this. NHI performance art, I never would have thought I would have heard that in terms of cattle mutilations.
Something is going on. Either it's a bunch of humans going around causing mischief, but if they are, they've got very sharp knives and they're doing kind of laser cuts that defy explanation. You know,
it's not under the realms of possibility, though, that you could have someone carrying around a laser.
These are animals which are found often with literally all of the skin, all of the tissue, including whatever you call the tissue in between the teeth. Literally all of the tissue has been excised from the animal, and what you're seeing is a perfectly normal animal below the head, and then above the head it's like just a skull. And it's weird because the bone's still got moisture in it. And I can't explain it. I don't know why any non-human intelligence would want to do something like that.
Why any human intelligence would want to do that
unless it's trying to freak us out. And it's pretty scary. The implications of it are quite scary.
I can just imagine some like aliens sitting in a spacecraft somewhere, pissing themselves, absolutely pissing themselves. Look, we're going to freak them out. Grab that cow, we're going to proper freak them out.
But why, what the motivations are for why they or it is doing it, I have no bloody idea. Absolutely not. If anyone's got any suggestions, please let me know.
Okay, this is the Steve on X. Hey, Megan and Ross, thanks for your dedication and first-class reporting on the UAP subject. I've heard a couple of things about our sun being more than we know, and I was wondering if Ross had heard anything about this apart from the recent Jesse Michaels interview with Dan Sherman.
Just for those of you who haven't seen it, I strongly recommend you do watch. It was a great effort by Jesse. He finally scored the interview that a lot of us have been trying to get with Dan Sherman, who wrote a fantastically intriguing book hinting at the fact, or suggesting very overtly, that the United States Air Force has indeed been working with people who have psychical or psionic abilities for quite a long time. Dan described how during his service in the Air Force, he was enlisted into a secret program where he was essentially taught how to telepathically communicate with non-human intelligences and to relay communications, most of which he had no understanding of, to and from both humans and non-humans.
Okay, so right, he's communicating. He said most of it he has no understanding what he's talking. I need to probably watch that interview, because does he mean it was in a language that he didn't understand, but obviously both sides understood? You know, like if someone said to me, just repeat exactly what we're going to what we're going to say. And it's like, Platu, Barato, Nikto, right? Both sides might understand what you're saying, but you in the middle go, what does that mean? Not got a clue. I can see the sense in that.
It implied that there was a very organised program being run through the auspices of the National Security Agency. And look, frankly, I find Dan Sherman highly credible. He tells a absolutely amazing story, but it does mesh with accounts that I've had from other people inside the national security infrastructure who tell me that there are still ongoing uses of psionics inside the system. I'm not sure that the program Project Preserve Destiny that Dan was part of is still operating, but it does intrigue me that he did describe his own.
If I look a bit red, it's because I'm still got full of a cold at the minute.
Communications with non-humans, and Jesse's done a marvellous job. I think it's several hours. It runs for about 3 hours, interviewing Dan in great detail. And you can also get his book Above Black on Amazon. And one of the things he talked about, to come to the question, is he talked about how in one of the conversations he had with the purported non-human intelligence, it told Dan that we humans do not have a sufficient understanding of the importance of our sun. And the non-human intelligence implied that the sun is used as some kind of a portal, almost had a reverential tone directed towards the sun, that we humans don't yet realize its full significance. We merely see it as a source of light and energy, but we would eventually understand the significance of the sun at some time in the future. And I made notes at the time because I thought it was actually quite significant when he told Jesse. He had an alien called, which he nicknamed Bones, and another one called
God damn it, Jim. I'm an NA child, not a goddamn postman.
Spock. And he explained, they think around time. It's not linear like ours. And then this whole thing with solar portals. The sun's not just a star, it's a nexus point. You go in one side and you're out in another system, which sounds a bit like the sun's some kind of black hole. And what I loved about this is that it conjoins with ideas that I've read about in physics papers.
I suppose maybe not being a portal in itself, but I suppose if you need something that's gonna basically disrupt space-time, black hole would do that. Inside a star, has it got strong enough gravity to warp space-time where you could link 2 points? Maybe there's some quantum entanglement where you go in the sun and you come out somewhere else in another system. I don't know.
About the first 3 paragraphs I can understand, where they talk about Einstein-Rosen bridges, wormholes.
Yeah, wormholes, basically.
And is the sun capable of being a wormhole? Sherman says,
but you got to survive getting into the wormhole. That's half the challenge. It's got metaphasic shielding.
Suggests that they are stabilized by the sun's immense gravitational and electromagnetic energy, which makes our sun a preferred entry and exit point for visitors to Earth's solar system. I loved all this idea, and I thought it was great how much detail Dan had about it. He claimed that...
I don't know. I might use AI to delve into that at some point. You know, is there any theoretical papers ever been written that the sun could be a potential wormhole? I've never heard it before.
Aliens harness the sun's energy via Dyson sphere-like structures.
We've never seen them. I don't think, right, with James Webb Telescope, the Hubble, every other telescope that's pointing at the stars, I don't think we've ever seen evidence of a Dyson sphere. And for anybody who's wondering what a Dyson sphere is basically civilization that's become so advanced that they could build a structure around the star, and you could have entire worlds built on the surface on the inside to harness the sun. So you're harnessing 100% efficiency of the sun's energy. But I don't think there's any evidence of Dyson spheres being found so far.
Or plasma manipulation, echoing the Kardashev Type 2 civilization scale.
We're not even Type 1 yet.
Where a society can fully utilize a star's energy. And he said, the sun is some kind of portal to other star systems like a Dyson sphere, but more harnessing it for jumps. And then at one point, I made a lot of notes about this because I was really struck by it. He recounted a telepathic exchange where an entity expressed awe about our sun, implying humans undervalue it. Quote, he was talking about how we really don't understand the value of our sun and that we will at some point eventually understand it. It was this profound reverence, like the sun is the creator, the source. And he then went on to say how the alien had told him these portals connect all the stars in a kind of network. It's why they revere creation so much. The sun isn't just energy. It's the loom weaving realities. And it's interesting because Dan, I actually quite like his brain. He talked about Copernicus and how Copernicus had this idea, a very mystical conception of the sun beyond just being an orbiting star. It's like he knew it was a portal. So, yeah, I mean, there are some ideas here, and it's part of a...
I mean, it's interesting theories, but it is what it is, theory.
Broader, a broader UFO narrative. You know, if you think about the suggestions that there are craft using exotic propulsion systems, maybe this is what they're doing. Maybe they are using some kind of wormhole near our sun. And it might explain these weird images that people sometimes publish, which show gigantic, apparent craft-like objects near the sun that seem to be doing something with the sun's plasma.
Come on, Ross. Come on. There was one video where it looked like an orb, basically, with a stream coming from the sun. But science has explained that, and I think it was a good explanation, and I think that's all it is. Yeah, people look at it and go, oh, it's a spacecraft being fueled. And the spacecraft would have had to have been like 3 times the size of the Earth, if not bigger.
I truly have to admit that...
Actually, it would have been many hundreds of times the size of the Earth.
Everything I'm saying here is totally speculative, and it may be a load of cobblers. We have no idea. I just wish that good science could shed more light on this, and I hope eventually it will.
I agree, Ross. I agree.
Okay, Ross, you mentioned the name Spock in there, and I think that's the name of a character from Star Trek. If I'm wrong, please do not eat me alive.
Oh, Megan. Bloody hell.
In the comments.
How could you not know that? I mean, it's logical.
I guess I should have said, please don't eat me alive, Ross. But our last question connects to that. If Ross was in Star Trek's Starfleet, which decision would he see himself in? Command, engineering, security, or science?
I'm sorry, I'm big-headed enough, and I like what Captain...
I could see him being in command.
Kirk had. He not only commanded, he always, I mean, it was always ridiculous to me as someone who knows how the commander of a vessel has to be protected because they're meant to be the brains and the boss. It was always hilarious to me that Jim Kirk was always the guy who got captured by the aliens, and he was always falling in love with all the alien women because he was the guy who was the point man for the whole ship. All of these young sailors on board the Enterprise were basically left behind, and it was Jim Kirk and Scotty and Spock that basically went down to the ground and did all the hard work on the ground.
Not to mention some poor sap wearing a red uniform.
A little bit implausible, but frankly, I want Kirk's job.
So if you're Kirk, what does that make me your producer?
You be the Spock.
You could be Uhuru. Is it Uhuru, the command navigator? Uhura.
No, you got that completely wrong. The navigator was Sulu. And Chekhov. I'm not sure which one was actually piloting the ship, to be honest.
Okay, so that's what we'll say now, because usually when you and I do things...
Super smart woman who
Perfect.
knew exactly what she was doing and
It was on communications. Come on.
constantly saved us all from idiocy. How does that sound?
Hura? So this is what we'll call it now, because usually when you and I do things like live feeds, we say we're going to do the Peyton and Eli playbook, but now I'm going to say the Kirk and Hura playbook.
Oh, God.
It'll be a little internal thing for us from now on.
Sounds good to me. You know, it's really interesting. Gene Roddenberry, who wrote Star Trek, there's a lot of speculation. I think he was a navigator in World War II. But it turns out he had some very influential friends who were working inside what now passes, I suspect, for the legacy UAP program. He was very connected. And a lot of people have suggested to me that Gene Roddenberry's ideas of the Prime Directive, which is one of the ideas in Star Trek that Kirk and his team could never show themselves to an alien civilization, because to do so would be to interfere in the affairs of a developing civilization. And so the idea was there was this prime directive that you do not bring in highly advanced technology. You allow civilizations to develop under their own steam. And I've always thought it was very interesting that Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was very much the progenitor of that idea. And who informed that idea? Can that explain why
some people just have some really good ideas?
If there is a non-human intelligence, it's not engaging with us more overtly. I suspect it is.
Okay, Ross, that was the last one for today. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Megan, or should I say Uhura.
I'm going to leave it at that before the butcher any more Star Trek. Yeah, some interesting ones in there. Gene Roddenberry. Yeah, I mean, he was a visionary. Created one of the best things on TV in Star Trek, maybe not in recent years. But then he's not been in control for years and years and years. I do like the idea. I mean, I do like the idea that an alien civilization would look over us and not interfere, but make sure that we don't destroy ourselves. That would be a beautiful thought. Is it real? I don't know. The other thought is sun being some sort of portal or wormhole to another star system. Or they're all connected. Science will tell us one day. Maybe we're not there yet, but I don't even think I've even seen any theories around the sun being a wormhole, to be honest. Oh, by the way, if you've got a film to watch and you're not seeing it, go and watch Sunshine with Cillian Murphy and Chris Evans. Really good film. That's called Sunshine, and it's all about saving the Earth, but it's by Danny Boyle, who was the director. Great film. Probably not that well known, but it's a great film nevertheless. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you on the next one. You take care.